It's absolutely apptacular. The Subject Cinema Android app. Everything you need to be a rabid Subject Cinema fan. Subject Cinema, 3-Minute Weekend, Tuesday Digidex, and Front Row 5 and 10. All right at your fingertips and available instantly. Plus, email and voicemail links, Facebook and Twitter hookups, Patreon support specials, and more is coming real soon. Don't just listen, app it. The all-in-one Subject Cinema podcast app. Android version available now at Google Play or on PNR Network websites. Amazon and iPhone apps coming soon. Don't delay. Download today.
Blueberry. This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
On air, online, on now. From the hub of the universe, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, this is Subject Cinema, with your hosts, T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome TC and Kim.
Hey, kiddies, welcome to another edition of Subject Cinema, SC19. I'm TC Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
It is February 17, 2019, and Subject Cinema number 623. As you've noticed, we've been gone again for a while.
Sorry.
We have these weird things happening off and on, but this is actually a good thing, because we're finally getting to something that we would normally do. We used to do the last weekend in January. And as we've been having some issues, we've realized, waiting until mid-February is actually a good idea, because then we have all the winners and everything else. So, and we're also going to do something we haven't done before. So this is our 15th or 14th annual Festival of Film Festivals. Part 1. We're going to talk 2 weeks on this from now on, and we're going to do them in February from now on. And the first week, we're going to devote to Sundance. Sundance is the biggest of the four that happen, and we'll have some other. Next week, we'll do Sundance, Slam Dance, Santa Barbara, Palm Springs, and I mentioned a few of the other ones that also happened. And so it's going to be interesting. Sundance was an interesting thing this year anyway, because they had a lot of stuff going for outrageously expensive prices that people were going like, are you kidding? What the heck? I don't know. I was more enjoying watching Sundance through the eyes of Jeffrey Wells. Do you guys know who Jeffrey Wells is? He is the purveyor of HollywoodElsewhere.com, Hollywood-Elsewhere.com. He got booted. He's had these really high-end press passes, and this year he got passed over. He wasn't real happy about it.
Nope.
And boy, did he have fun letting people know and going there and begging tickets from people and stuff.
Yep. And he basically got told, no. Pretty much. I mean, didn't he? He kept trying to get in, and they were like, no.
Well, the Sundance people have changed up the way they're doing things. A lot of people thought that it was a better Sundance. I thought it was a worse Sundance, because they've let the whole crap that's going on in the entertainment industry, influence what they did, but it also cost them goodwill from a lot of veteran Sundance people. So this new director. I hope Redford knows what he's doing with this one. So anyway, we have the winners of the Sundance Film Festival. Sundance took place this year, January 21st through February 3rd. There was a lot of interesting films there. And we're going to go over the ones that were winners, plus all of our additional picks.
Yep.
And we're going to tell you what we know about them, give you a little bit of a description, and also whether or not they got bought and whether they'll be coming out soon. Quite a few of them did get picked up. Like I said, there were a couple of bidding wars. 2 films went for the highest price ever at a Sundance Film Festival. The problem with Sundance and the money, as we've seen in past years, is they keep paying these record prices for movies that ultimately end up tanking at the box office. This happened with Me and Earl and the Dying Girl.
Yeah.
It happened with Birth of a Nation.
Which didn't deserve to happen with Me and Earl.
It had a bunch of people jumping on the bandwagon against it right when it was coming out.
Yeah.
It happened with Birth of a Nation.
Yep. Which also had the same thing happen.
Yeah. And a number of other things that over the last 5 years or so.
Actually, I should rephrase that. Not exactly the same thing.
No.
With Me and Earl, it was just all of a sudden people were like, "Oh, this movie's not that good." With
people didn't like
Birth
the
of a
way
Nation,
Greg was played, the character Thomas Mann played in that film.
With Birth of a Nation, it became jump on the director because of stuff that had happened
20 years ago previously
that he was legally cleared of.
It was the early bubblings of what eventually became the Me Too movement, and there's a lot of other stuff. So they've had all these films, record prices and stuff, and now this year we've had a couple new records set, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Anyway, let's get started.
Yep.
The grand prize jury winner for documentary at this year's film festival is a film called One Child Nation. It is one of my picks. It is the study of the untold history of China's one-child policy and the generations of parents and children forever shaped by this social experiment. It hit quite a few people pretty hard over there. It has been purchased by either Netflix or Hulu, I forget which, but it will premiere on TV this summer.
Yep.
And it's going to be an interesting little film. I take it we're not interested. It's a little too subject mattery for you.
It's not that I wasn't interested. I don't know, maybe I just tend to, I don't always avoid films that make me uncomfortable because
we see films that make us uncomfortable over here at Salem, so.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. The last film we saw about China made me so uncomfortable, I was like, I don't ever want to go to China again.
Yeah, that's David and Goliath.
And that's,
I could tell the reaction you had yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kim has a relative that may be going to China for an instructing experience next summer, so.
Yeah. And, well, I thought that might have been just between you and me that you picked up on that. But anyway.
I did, but I didn't, I'm not going to give nobody needs to know anything else about that. So.
Well, the film that won the U.S. Grand Jury Prize Dramatic was actually a pick of mine, a film called Clemency. This is the synopsis. Years of carrying out death row executions have taken a toll on prison warden Bernadine Williams. As she prepares to execute another inmate, Bernadine must confront the psychological and emotional demons her job creates, ultimately connecting her to the man she is sanctioned to kill. The cast includes Alfre Woodard, Aldous Hodge, Richard Schiff, Wendell Pierce, Richard Gunn, and Danielle Brooks.
Interestingly enough, has not sold yet. So it has no outlet or distributor as of yet, even though it won. 3 awards went to our first joint pick. It was the winner of the World Cinema Grand Jury Prize for Documentary, the World Cinema Documentary Special Jury Award for Impact for Change, whatever the heck that means, and for cinematography. It is a documentary called Honeyland. This film is from Macedonia, and it focuses on nomadic beekeepers who break Honeyland's basic rule, which is take half the honey but leave half to bees. The last female tree hunter in Europe is trying to save the bees and restore the natural balance. Got rave reviews, 3 awards. Should be interesting.
It should, because
Honeyland has been purchased by either Netflix or Hulu, I forget which.
People who have been, saying this stuff for a number of years that, bees are dying, and if all the bees die, that's a bad thing.
A very bad thing.
And, whether or not you're someone who believes in climate change, blah, 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 and all that stuff like that, you can't ignore the fact that there are less of certain animals around than there used to be. And that's always a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's just, our take on it, and it does sound interesting.
Yep.
The World Cinema Grand Jury Prize, dramatic, went to another one of my picks, a film called The Souvenir from the United Kingdom. A shy film student begins finding her voice as an artist while navigating a turbulent courtship with a charismatic but untrustworthy man. She defies her protective mother and concerned friends as she slips deeper and deeper into an intense, emotionally fraught relationship which comes dangerously close to destroying her dreams. The cast includes Honor Swinton Byrne, Tom Burke, and Tilda Swinton. Mm-hmm. And Honor is Tilda's daughter.
Yep.
So that should be really interesting.
This also got some of the best critical notices of Sundance. It has been purchased. I forget which. I think it's A24. It is already aiming for an Oscars next year, and probably scheduled to be out in November or December. But yeah, it definitely has gotten tons of praise. The Audience Award for U.S. Documentary Film went to Knock Down the House. A young bartender in the Bronx, a coal miner's daughter in West Virginia, a grieving mother in Nevada, and a registered nurse in Missouri build a movement of insurgent candidates challenging powerful incumbents in Congress, and one of those races will become the most shocking political upset in recent American history. I've just not been terribly interested in this one, and it did, of course, get the liberal crowd at Sundance all in a bother and a tizzy, and enjoying it a lot. It has yet to sell.
Mm-hmm. The Audience Award U.S. Dramatic went to Brittany Runs a Marathon. A woman living in New York takes control of her life one city block at a time. The cast includes Jillian Bell, Michaela Watkins, Utkarsh Ambudkar, I'm sorry, I know I said that completely wrong, Lil Rel Howery, Mika Stock, and Alice Lee. Sorry.
I am not really familiar with too many of the people.
No, I'm not either.
This is also a big critical hit, and I believe Magnolia picked it up. One of the film studios picked it up, and it was one of the higher priced ones, somewhere between 12 and 14 million. I'm like, okay. The Audience Award for World Cinema Documentary went to Sea of Shadows from Austria. The vaquita, the world's smallest whale, is near extinction as its habitat is destroyed by Mexican cartels and Chinese mafia who harvest the swim bladder of the tatoba fish, the cocaine of the sea. Environmental activists, Mexican Navy, and undercover investigators are fighting back against this illegal multi-million-dollar business. I would not be able to sit through this.
No.
This would piss us off so badly that we would not be able to do.
Yeah. I like to think that I'm a relatively level-headed person most of the time. At least I can fake it well. But you show me anything where something terrible is happening to an animal, and I will go from zero to rage monster faster than humanly possible, and it's not something anybody needs to see. Mm-hmm. The Audience Award for World Cinema Dramatic, another pick of mine, went to a film from Denmark called Queen of Hearts. A woman jeopardizes both her career and her family when she seduces her teenage stepson and is forced to make an irreversible decision with fatal consequences. The cast includes Trine Dryholm, Gustav Lind, and Magnus Krepper.
This got some good word of mouth. I'm not sure who bought it. It was another one that was purchased by one of the smaller distributors, so it'll probably show up on your local art house this summer. Mm-hmm. The Audience Award for the Next section. Next is a Sundance section that has... it isn't quite as adverse as the Midnight movies, but it's definitely out there, or at least up-and-coming people. It also won the Next Innovator Prize. The film is The Infiltrators, a drama about a ragtag group of undocumented youth deliberately getting detained by border control in order to infiltrate a shadowy for-profit detention center. The cast I'm not familiar with. This is not a surprise that this went over well in Sundance.
No, I guess not. Another pick of yours was the film that won the Directing Award for U.S. Documentary, American Factory. In post-industrial Ohio, a Chinese billionaire opens a new factory in the husk of an abandoned General Motors plant, hiring 2,000 blue-collar Americans. Early days of hope and optimism give way to setbacks as high-tech China clashes with working-class America.
Doesn't this sound a lot like Gung Ho?
Yeah.
Yeah. I am only interested
Except
in
that it's real.
Yeah, and I'm interested in it because it's in Ohio. The directing award for...
And Gung Ho was Japanese, not Chinese.
Yeah, that's true, too. The nominees for the winner for the directing award, U.S. Dramatic, and also a special jury award for creative collaboration went to the Last Black Man in San Francisco narrative film featuring a number of there's no cast on this one. Okay. Jimmy Fallon's dreams of reclaiming the Victorian home his grandfather built in the heart of San Francisco. Joined on his quest by his best friend Mont, Jimmy searches for belonging in a rapidly changing city that seems to have left them behind. This had a great word of mouth from people at Sundance as one of those smaller feel-good films that everybody will end up loving, and so sort of like Green Book has been this season, and is also being probably aimed at Oscar season because it is actually from, I believe, A24 picked this one up too.
Yep. Before we get to the next film, I would like to apologize up front for the fact that I'm going to absolutely destroy people's names.
Do you want me to say it?
No, I'll do it.
Okay.
I can do it. I'm going to just warn people right up front that my pronunciation skills are terrible. Actually, this film was picked by you and I, and we'd also like to tell people we don't know what each other picks when we do these lists.
When we do the picks,
Right.
I did a list where we chose both of them, but we each pick our stuff independently.
The film that won the directing award for World Cinema Documentary was Cold Case Hammerskjold.
That's right on the nose.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Very good.
Which is a group multi-nation production from Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Belgium. Danish director...
Yeah, B for that, we can make a dance song out of that.
Danish director Mads Brugger and Swedish private investigator Joran Bjordal are trying to solve the mysterious death of Dag Hammarskjöld. As their investigation closes in, they discover a crime far worse than killing the Secretary General of the United Nations.
Okay, just then up front here, this is a speculative documentary. This is speculative in the same way the Russian Woodpecker, which was the winner a few years ago, was speculative. There has never been an official end to this case, but on a recent episode of the Canadian series Mayday, which airs here in America on Smithsonian as Air Disasters, they looked into the Hammarskjöld case and came to the conclusion that none of these conspiracies were even possible. So I'm saying that up front. So that happened last season, and but I'm still interested in what they have to say.
Right.
The directing award for World Cinema Dramatic went to The Sharks from Uruguay, Argentina, and Spain. While a rumor about the presence of sharks in a small beach town distracts residents, 15-year-old Rosina begins to feel an instinct to shorten the distance between her body and Joselo's coming-of-age film, obviously. I don't remember seeing anything particular about this film at the show.
The Waldo Salt Screenwriting Award, U.S. Dramatic, and a U.S. Dramatic Special Jury Award for Achievement in Acting, which is also apparently one of mine, goes to Cher, which is a film from the United States. After discovering a disturbing video from a night she doesn't remember, 16-year-old Mandy must try to figure out what happened and how to navigate the escalating fallout. The cast includes Rian Barreto, Charlie Plummer, Poorna Jagnathan, J.C. McKenzie, Nick Galitzine, and Lovie Simone.
Sounds interesting, I suppose. U.S. Documentary Special Jury Award for Moral Urgency. Really? Always in Season from the U.S., featuring, I believe this is I can't tell whether this is a documentary or a narrative from the description.
I think it's a documentary.
When 17-year-old Lennon Lacey is found hanging from a swing set in rural North Carolina in 2014, his mother's search for justice and reconciliation begins as the trauma of more than a century of lynching African Americans bleeds into the present.
Is it really horrifying that we're still talking about this? Because it's still happening?
Yep.
Yeah. Most evolved creatures on the planet. Right, sure. Okay. U.S. Documentary Special Jury Award Emerging Filmmaker was one of your picks.
It was.
For the United States film Jawline. The film follows 16-year-old Austin Tester, a rising star in the live broadcast ecosystem who built his following on wide-eyed optimism and teen girl lust as he tries to escape a dead-end life in rural Tennessee.
This is obviously another look at another online video guy. My pick for another pick of mine and the critics also, a U.S. Documentary Special Award for Editing went to Apollo 11 from director Todd Douglas Miller, a purely archival reconstruction of humanity's first trip to another world, featuring never seen before 70mm footage and never before heard audio from the mission that was just uncovered at NASA a couple of years ago. NASA's not real good with filing some of their older stuff, and it's fallen into the wrong hands, in the hands of collectors and stuff, and this is what this is made of. And it looks, everybody was saying this was even better than was it First Man with Ryan Gosling? It's the same mission, and this is really a really amazing look at it. So I'm anxious to see it.
A U.S. Documentary Special Jury Award for Cinematography went to Midnight Family, a co-production between Mexico and the United States. In Mexico's wealthiest neighborhoods, the Ochoa family runs a private ambulance competing with other for-profit EMTs for patients in need of urgent help. As they try to make a living in this cutthroat industry, they struggle to keep their financial needs from compromising the people in their care.
Did we know there was such a problem with this anywhere?
I didn't, but
I didn't either. One of the biggest buzzed films out of Sundance this year, and definitely a pick on our list.
Both of our lists, yeah.
Jury prize for Vision and Craft, Honey Boy, a child's TV star and his ex-rodeo clown father face their stormy past through time and cinema, written by and starring Shia LaBeouf and also Noah Jupe as the on-screen younger clone of Shia, and Lucas Hedges as the older version of Shia. This is based on his relationship with his father.
And Shia is playing his father.
Shia is playing his father. This has been picked up by Netflix and will premiere in July.
World Cinema Documentary Special Jury Award for No Borders, Midnight Traveler won that. It is a co-production between the United States, Qatar, the United Kingdom, and Canada. When the Taliban puts a bounty on Afghan director Hassan Fasili's head, he is forced to flee with his wife and 2 young daughters. Capturing an uncertain journey, Fasili shows firsthand the dangers facing refugees seeking asylum and the love shared between a family on the run.
This happens a lot to filmmakers in the Middle East. We
Yes,
see
it
this
does.
all the time.
Oh, yeah.
From filmmakers from Iraq and Iran and a number of other places.
Well, anybody who doesn't dare to toe the state line over there, you're literally putting your life and the lives of your family in your hands, especially if you're doing something with a documentary where you're out there, with a search for truth.
Yeah. I was surprised you didn't have this on your pick list because this one just screams Clotrudis to me. It does. Dramatic special prize from the jury for originality. From Japan, We Are Little Zombies. From screenwriter and director Makoto Nagahisa. Their parents are dead. They should be sad, but they can't cry. So they form a kick-ass band. This is the story of 4 13-year-olds in search of their emotions. Great word of mouth for this film coming out of Sundance. It is, despite its description, a comedy drama as opposed to a strict drama.
Yeah.
And
there are no zombies in it, to the disappointment.
No, that's the name of the band.
To the disappointment of certain people. There's no zombies in it. Your pick wound up winning a World Cinema Dramatic Special Jury Award, and that was Monos, which is a joint production between Colombia, Argentina, the Netherlands, Germany, and Sweden.
And Uruguay.
And Uruguay? Did I miss? Oh, I did miss Uruguay. Sorry, Uruguay. Sorry. On a faraway mountaintop, 8 kids with guns watch over a hostage and a conscripted milk cow. The cast includes Julianne Nicholson, Moses Arias, Sofia Buenaventura, Debbie Rueda, Karen Quintero, and Laura Castrillon.
This was there's a great Sundance Selects interview with the cast of this film, in which Moises Arias, who is best known, I think, possibly for Kings of Summer, he played the weird little friend of Nick Robinson's character. They were talking about how hard it was for these kids to do horrible things to Julianne Nicholson's character because they become such good friends on the set, and yet these kids are desperate and scared, and they're hurting this woman and terrorizing this woman, and they said they all felt bad throughout the entire shoot of the film. I like, okay, that's interesting. No pickup as yet. Last I saw, Magnolia was interested. I don't know if it's actually been bought yet. World Special Dramatic Jury Prize for Acting went to Dolce Fine Giornata from Poland. In Tuscany, Maria's family life begins to erode as her relationship with a young immigrant develops against a backdrop of terrorism and eroding democracy. Not really heard much about this outside of a few reviews that were fairly positive.
The Albert P. Sloan...
Sorry about that.
The Alfred P. Sloan Feature Film Prize was presented to an outstanding feature film about science or technology, which was presented to The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, which is a pick of yours.
This is the film that is directed by Chiwetel Ejiofor, about a science fair winner, and has been getting rave reviews from early word of mouth. It has also been picked up by Netflix for later this year, and hopefully we'll see something there. And finally, the Sundance Institute's NHK Award was presented to a film called Planet Korsakov, coming from Japan, and its director Taro Aoshima. Did I pronounce that right?
I think that's about right.
Aoshima?
Yeah. Hopefully.
Those are the Sundance Award winners this year. When we come back, we're going to have the first of a couple of sets of our other picks that didn't quite make the awards. That doesn't mean they aren't good films. A lot of the big money ones are coming up.
When Subject Cinema returns.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
All right, Kristen, I am so excited that you've decided to do a podcast with me, but what are we going to do a podcast about? There's so many other movie podcasts. We got to do something original.
Well, I'm a big fan of Disney movies. What about something like that?
That's just kid stuff. What do we want to do that for?
Did you know that The Avengers is a Disney movie? Or that Pulp Fiction is a Disney movie?
Pulp Fiction is not a Disney movie.
It's technically owned by Miramax, which is part of Disney.
We are still going to talk about the Disney animated movies, though, right?
I thought you said that was kid stuff.
Well, I've got 2 kids. I got to be a good dad and stuff.
So be sure to subscribe to the Walt Sent Me podcast, where we discuss the various subsidiaries of the Walt Disney Studios, including the animated movies.
It's available on iTunes, Podomatic, and wherever you find great podcasts. And I swear, it's not kid stuff.
Subject Cinema.
Welcome to another week here on Subject Cinema. This week we're looking at Sundance 2019. I'm Kim Brown.
I'm T.C. Kirkham. It is our 14th annual Festival of Film Festivals.
Woohoo!
Part 1. Part 2, we'll do the other film festivals next week. There's a lot at Sundance. We've gone over the award winners. Now there's a lot. Sundance ran 146 films this year, something like that. I'm sorry for my continuing cough. I can't get rid of it. Not all of them could win awards. There's quite a lot of good ones, including a lot of the money makers from the people with the moolah backstage are in the ones we're going to discuss here now. And we're going to go through the narratives first, and then we'll do the documentaries.
These are the ones we're interested in.
These are our picks for the ones that were there.
Yep. So we're starting.
We each have our own picks. Some of them are joint, some of them are not.
Yeah. And we'll say who's, who picked what movie.
Right.
So these are the narratives. This is one of my picks. Before You Know It, a long-kept family secret thrusts codependent 30-something sisters Rachel and Jackie Gurner into a literal soap opera. A journey that proves that you really can come of age at any age. The cast includes Hannah Pearl Utt, Jen Tulloch, Judith Light, Mandy Patinkin, Mike Coulter, and Alec Baldwin.
What drew you to that?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, other than the fact that I saw Mandy Patinkin's name, and I love Mandy Patinkin, and I love to watch him in all kinds of stuff, and just family dramas and family dynamics and all that stuff, that always interests me, simply because if I can look at somebody else's family and go, well, crap, now I feel like I live with the Waltons, that tends to make me feel better. It's Schadenfreude, I admit it.
Another one of your picks, and I had no interest in this one. Big time adolescence. A suburban teenager comes of age under the destructive guidance of his best friend, a charismatic college dropout. With Pete Davidson, Griffin Gluck, John Cryer, Sydney Sweeney, Emily Arlook, and Colson Baker. Mm-hmm. It was one of your picks. Yep. I don't know what... Again, the family dynamic thing?
I guess, kind of. Right. You know. Also, one of mine is Imaginary Order. The sexual, psychological, and moral unraveling of an obsessive-compulsive suburban mom. The cast includes Wendy McClendon Covey, Christine Woods, Max Burkholder, Steve Little, Catherine Curtin, and Kate Alberts. I have to be honest, I don't know what drew me to this. Other than the idea... The phrase moral unraveling intrigued me. It's the corruptor in me. I can't help it.
Native Son was the opening film at Sundance, and it did not get the best of reviews. It was expected to be a huge hit, and it actually ended up getting middling reviews. It is the modern-day reimagining of Richard Wright's seminal novel, with a young African-American man named Bigger Thomas taking a job working for a highly influential Chicago family, a decision that will change the course of his life forever. I was drawn to it because of the cast, which includes Ashton Sanders, Margaret Qualley. She is the Woman of the Year at Sundance. She had 5 films at Sundance this year. Nick Robinson, who I love, Kiki Lane, Bill Camp, and Sana Lathan. They were a bit disappointed with the reviews of this, and it has been picked up A24, I think, and it was bought before the festival, so it didn't really have any bearing on that, but it's going to be interesting to see how it does when it comes out.
A film that you and I both wound up picking was The Sound of Silence, a successful house tuner in New York City who calibrates the sound in people's homes in order to adjust their moods, meets a client with a problem he can't solve. The cast includes Peter Sarsgaard, Rashida Jones, Tony Revolori, and Austin Pendleton.
I was drawn by Tony's
Me too.
presence.
Me too.
I love him. I gotta ask though, what the hell is a house tuner?
I'm kind of wondering if it's kind of like an extension of feng shui. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it just sounded intriguing to me, but that's just me.
Judy and Punch. This one attracted you before I saw it, and I read it. Like, this is interesting. In the anarchic town of Seaside, nowhere near the sea, puppeteers Judy and Punch are trying to resurrect their marionette show. The show is hit due to Judy's superior puppeteering, but Punch's driving ambition and penchant for whiskey lead to an inevitable tragedy that Judy must avenge. With Mia Wasikowska, who is always awesome, Damon Harriman, Tom Budge, Benedict Hartle, Lucy Velk, and Terry Norris. I think this is supposed to be a dark comedy. I'm not sure. But,
well, considering the fact that the Punch and Judy show has been around for years, the Punch and Judy Puppet show has been around for years, and if you look at the actual story in a Punch and Judy show, you're like, who in their right mind ever thought this should be shown to children? Holy crap, this thing's violent. But, you know, it should be...
So are Warner Brothers cartoons. What's your point?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
But for the most part...
Tom and Jerry.
Hold on, wait a second. For the most part, Wile E. Coyote running off a cliff, and then you see him okay in the next scene, that's, you know, suspension of disbelief, fine. Punch and Judy is usually a husband and wife, and the husband's beating the wife with a stick and all this other stuff like that. That might have hit a little too close to home for some kids.
I know.
Just saying. Next up is one of my picks, a film that's a co-production between Sweden and Denmark, Coco Di Coco Da. As a couple goes on a trip to find their way back to each other, a sideshow artist and his shady entourage emerge from the woods, terrorizing them, luring them deeper and deeper into a maelstrom of psychological horror and humiliating slapstick. The cast includes Leif Edlund, Yiva Gallen, Peter Belly, and Katarina Jacobson.
What's the title again?
Coco D. Coco Da.
Coco D. Coco Da. Life goes on. Ah, ah. I'm sorry. It just seems like the kind of
You're
title.
a twit.
I am not a twit. And this is not Berlin, one of Kim's picks. 1986 Mexico City. Well, that makes sense. That's not Berlin. 17-year-old Carlos doesn't fit in anywhere, nor in his family, nor with friends that he has in school. But everything changes when he's invited to a mythical nightclub where he discovers the underground nightlife scene of punk, sexual liberty, and drugs.
Yep.
What is with you this year?
I wish that somebody had introduced me to that when I was 17.
You're picking some of the weirdest stuff.
Well, I'm trying to grow as a film, person.
I know,
Give me a break.
I know.
One of your picks is
this
next.
Is high on my list.
Yep.
Yeah.
Adam. Awkward teenager Adam arrives to spend his final high school summer with his older sister, who has thrown herself into New York City's lesbian and trans activist scene. Over the summer, Adam and those around him experience love, friendship, and attendant hard truths in this coming-of-age comedy. The cast includes Nicholas Alexander, Idina Menwez, Leo Sheng, Chloe Levine, and Margaret Qualley.
Again. This one
get used to that name. You're going to see
this
it
one
a lot.
is attracted to me simply because it looks really interesting. The premise is interesting, and it has a deal. I've forgotten which company bought it, but it should be out this summer. It should be interesting. Another one of Kim's oddball picks: The Death of Dick Long. Dick died last night.
You're surprised that's one of mine with a title like that?
Dick died last night, and Zeke and Earl don't want anybody finding out how. That's just too bad, though, because news travels fast in small-town Alabama. This came out of the Next group, I believe, with Michael Abbott Jr., Virginia Newcomb, Andre Highland, Sarah Baker, and Jess Wexler, the only name in the cast that I know. Explanation?
I don't need to explain myself to you or anybody else.
Fair enough.
I am well over the age of where I have to explain myself to anybody. I am color me done with that.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Well, actually, I have to be honest. The one that you picked, which is next, this I'm kind of like when I saw you had picked this, I was like, okay, that's interesting. Sister Amy. In 1926, America's most famous evangelist is a woman, and she's looking for a way out. Fed up with her own success, she gets swept up in her lover's daydreams about Mexico and finds herself on a wild road trip towards the border.
I picked it for these next two phrases.
Based on true events, mostly made up.
Yes.
The cast includes Anna Margaret Holloman, Michael Mosley, Andrea Suez Paz, Julie White, Macon Blair, and Amy Hargreaves. For those of you who don't know who this is about Amy Semple McPherson, who was her generation's Jim Baker, I guess. Would you think that would be accurate? Or
she was closer to the Elle Fanning character from that Ben Affleck movie.
Okay. All right.
What was that, Live by Night?
Yeah.
Is that it?
I mean, what I mean is she was a powerful evangelist and had a
temperance leader. Too,
and had a lot of people listening to her. And then when she disappeared for a little while, the whole country just lost their collective minds.
Yeah. The Wolf Hour, once a known counterculture figure, June E. Lee, now lives in self-imposed exile in her South Bronx apartment during the incendiary 77 Summer of Sam. When an unseen tormentor begins exploiting June's weaknesses, her insular universe begins to unravel. With Naomi Watts, Emery Cohen, Jennifer Ely, and Calvin Harris Jr. Emery Cohen is developing one of these reputations now. Unfortunately, he's a really excellent young actor, but outside of a couple of turns that he did in a couple of movies here and there, he's getting a reputation for playing these psychotic characters, and I'd like to see him
rescue a puppy.
I mean, he did that in that movie with Saoirse Ronan. That I've forgotten the name of it. The one that was the one set in the 50s. Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Was that it? That was the name
I think so. Yeah.
And that's the last one I remember him seeing in a decent part in. So, but I think that's going to be an interesting one.
A pick of yours, which is also the biggest sale at Sundance this past year.
Ever.
Ever?
Ever.
Okay. Or ever, as
Ever.
they say up here.
It's the biggest sale ever!
You're not from up here. You don't get to do that.
I wasn't doing that. I was doing Oda from Iron Chef.
Oh.
That was Ova. Anyway, go ahead.
Why do I get the distinct feeling I've just been zinged?
Blinded by the Light. You want to tell people about it?
In 1987, during the austere days of Thatcher's Britain, a teenager learns to live life, understand his family, and find his own voice through the music of Bruce Springsteen. The cast includes Vivek Clara, Haley Atwell, Rob Brydon, Kulvinder Gier, Nell Williams, and Aaron Fagura.
This thing is the biggest selling title in Sundance history. It's sold for $16 million to Amazon Studios. It is scheduled for release in June. It has an incredible word of mouth. I think it had something like a 97% of people coming out of this movie were just raving about how much fun it was. This could be the big sleeper of the summer, and I honestly, it would be nice to see one of these expensive movies actually do that, because the last several years, like we said, they've kind of fallen flat on their face with it. This one sounds really excellent. As I said, Amazon Studios will release it in June. The other big money number was Late Night, also a pick of mine. From director Nisha Ganatra, legendary late night talk show host world is turned upside down when she hires her only female staff writer. Originally intended to smooth over diversity concerns, her decision has unexpectedly hilarious consequences as the two women, separated by culture and generation, are united by their love for a biting punchline. With Emma Thompson as the acerbic late-night talk show host, Mindy Kaling as the new hiring, plus John Lithgow, Paul Walter Hauser, Reed Scott, and Amy Ryan. This also sold to Amazon for $14 million and is aimed at a summer release of some sort.
Another film from your list is The Mustang.
I was surprised this wasn't on your list. I really was.
While participating in a rehabilitation program training wild Mustangs, a convict at first struggles to connect with the horses and his fellow inmates, but learns to confront his violent past as he soothes an especially feisty horse. The cast includes Matthias Schoenaerts, Connie Britton, Bruce Dern, Jason Mitchell, Gideon Adlon, and Josh Stewart.
This has been getting good word of mouth, and it was being compared to the Shawshank Redemption in terms of feel-good prison movies. So it attracted me, and I thought it was interesting. One film that you picked that did not get especially good reviews, Relive, a murder mystery with a twist. After a man's family dies in what appears to be a murder, he gets a phone call from one of the dead, his niece. He's not sure if it's a ghost or if he's going mad, but as it turns out, he's not. Instead, her calls help him rewrite history. With David Oyelowo, Storm Reed, Michael T. Williamson, Alfred Molina, and Brian Tyree Henry, another name that showed up in multiple films at Sundance. The reviews of this were not stellar. It wasn't terrible in a few places, but we weren't stellar. And I feel sorry for David Oyelowo. After getting a real run of critically acclaimed films, including playing Dr. Martin Luther King and Selma, he did Snatch last year. Was that the name of it? No, that's not the name of it. I can't remember the name of the film. The thing with Charlize Theron, Joel Edgerton, Ringo. And after that last year, and now this, we'll see.
Also on my list is a film that you were kind of giving me a hard time about because you were like, what is, why this film?
I didn't really give you a hard time.
Well, not a super hard time, but you were just kind of like, what?
This description is a little off, too. So, anyway.
Well, my pick is Velvet Buzzsaw, a thriller set in the contemporary art world scene of Los Angeles where big money artists and mega collectors pay a high price when art collides with commerce. The cast includes Jake Gyllenhaal, Rene Russo, Toni Collette, Zawe Ashton, Tom Sturridge, and Natalia Dyer.
I say it's a little bit off because it's actually a satire. And it is a thriller, but there's satire elements to it. Reviews were not kind. You can check it out right now. It premiered on Netflix a week ago Friday during Sundance, and I just the stills I've seen of Jake Gyllenhaal with his big glasses and this whole. I'm like, I don't know. Greener Grass. That must be one of yours.
Yep.
A deliciously. Oh, here we go. Here's Kim's keywords. A deliciously twisted comedy set in a demented, timeless suburbia where every adult wears braces on their straight teeth. Couples coordinate meticulously pressed outfits, and coveted family members are swapped in more ways than one in this competition for acceptance. Okay, this actually sounds interesting. With Jocelyn DeVore, Dawn Luby, Beck Bennett, Neil Casey, Mary Holland, and Darcy Carnan. I don't know any of these people, so this must be a tiny indie comedy. I've not heard any buzz about it, so I was surprised the next one wasn't on your list too.
There's a reason it's not. I'll get to it in a second.
All right.
Little Monsters is an Australian film, because of course it is. That was not meant as a slam against Australia.
Right,
I love Australia. You're a wonderful country, and you have beautiful people. And
this is what's known as backpedaling. Anyway.
But you come up with the weirdest stuff. Honest to blog, you do. A film dedicated to all the kindergarten teachers who motivate children to learn, instill them with confidence, and stop them from being devoured by zombies. Cast includes Lupita Nyong'o, Alexander England, and Josh Gad. Now, the reason I don't have this on my list is what are the two things that really bother me in horror movies? You can have buckets and buckets and buckets of blood and guts and gore, you know.
I don't know. What are they?
Bad things happen to animals, and bad things happen to children.
Okay.
I can't deal with that.
We should point out this is a dark comedy, by the way, just so you know.
I can't deal with that, man. I mean, you can show me a full-grown person getting their head macheted off, and I'm fine with it. But, step on an ant, and I completely freak out and start crying, and I'm just, that's me, and I can't help it.
This was picked up by a studio and will be out this summer. Mope, one of your picks again. Two mopes, the lowest level male performers in the porn industry, set their sights on an impossible dream of stardom. Oh, where do you find these? With Nathan Stewart, Jarrett, Kelly Fry, Brian Husky, Matt Adler, Tonya Cornelise, and one of your favorite actors of all time, David Arquette.
I have no problem with David Arquette as an actor.
As WCW champion, that's another story. Yeah, anyway.
We don't forget, David. We never forget.
What? As if I don't know. What drew you to this? The fluffers? Yeah, okay.
Well, it's a simple fact that, everybody, let's be honest out there, all of you people out in the interwebs, when you think of the porn industry, people
think... Do people think of the porn industry?
They do, and if you tell yourself you don't, you're lying. People think that it's one big orgy. That it's always people and they're having sex and they're getting paid for it and how awesome that must be. You never think of the fact that it's a job. For some people, it's just a job. And this just intrigued me to no end. And I admit it, and don't judge me. I don't, again...
There's a run of Kim's picks here in the next few or three.
Again, see, also, don't have to answer to you, don't have to answer to anybody anymore. And the next film is one of my picks. It's a film called Sweetheart. Jen has washed ashore on a small tropical island, and it doesn't take her long to realize she's completely alone. She must spend her days not only surviving the elements, but must also fend off the malevolent force that comes out each night.
It sounds an awful lot like Lost, doesn't it?
Well, Satra said hell is other people, and I've always been of the opinion, okay, you take that attitude, what happens when you're the only one? And then when you there's a very short story that I've seen on the internet, like the last man on earth was sitting in a room, and then there was a knock on the door. Those two sentences are absolutely terrifying when you think you're totally alone, and then you find out you're not, and whatever else isn't there, or is there, isn't like you. That's scary stuff. The cast includes Kiersey Clemens, Emery Cohen, Hannah Mangan, Lawrence, and Andrew Crawford.
All these, by the way, obviously coming from the next. You can tell from the plot lines here. The Hole in the Ground from Ireland, another Kim pick. One night, Sarah's young son disappears into the woods, behind their rural home. When he returns, he looks the same, but his behavior grows increasingly disturbing, and soon Sarah realizes that the boy who returned may not be her son at all. This actually got really good word of mouth with Sienna Kerslake, James Cosmo, Katie Outian, Simone Kirby, Steve Wall, and James Quinn Markey.
Mm-hmm. This is one of mine. The Lodge, which is a U.S. United Kingdom co-production. In this psychologically chilling slow burn, a young woman and her reticent new stepchildren find themselves isolated in the family's remote winter cabin, locked away to dredge up the mysteries of her dark past and the losses that seem to haunt them all. The cast includes Riley Keough, Jaden Martell, Leah McHugh, Alicia Silverstone, and Richard Armitage.
This actually sounds interesting. I gotta admit,
Yep.
I hadn't really given some deep thought there. Into a few movies that have made appearances at other festivals over the last few months. Next pick for both of us is The Mountain. 1950s America. Since his mother's confinement to an institution, Andy has lived in the shadow of his stoic father. A family acquaintance, Dr. Ralph, the name triggered it automatically. Dr. Wallace Fiennes employs the introverted young man as a photographer to document an asylum tour advocating for his increasingly controversial lobotomy procedure. This premiered at Venice, I believe, last summer, with Jeff Goldblum, Ty Sheridan, Udo Kier, Dennis Levant, and Hannah Gross. It got decent word of mouth. I don't know if it was picked up yet. We'll have to keep an eye out for it.
Next on the list is another one of my picks, a film from Australia called The Nightingale. 1825. Claire, a young Irish convict woman, chases a British officer through the Tasmanian wilderness, bent on revenge for a terrible act of violence he committed against her family. On the way, she enlists the services of Aboriginal tracker Billy, who is marked by trauma from his own violence-filled past. The cast including Ansling Franciosi, Sam Claflin, Bialaki Ganambar, Damon Harriman, Harry Greenwood, and Ewan Leslie.
Okay. Interesting. The one film that I wanted to see, I think, out of all Sundance that really jumped out at me among the narratives is a delightful, what looks to be a delightful film called Abe. The Israeli Jewish side of his family calls him Avram. The Palestinian Muslim side, Ibrahim. His first-generation American agnostic lawyer parents call him Abraham. But the 12-year-old kid from Brooklyn who loves food and cooking prefers Abe. Just Abe. With Noah Schnapp from Stranger Things leading the cast, along with Sue, George, Mario da Silva, Margolis, Dagmara Dominice, I would guess, Ariane Moayed, and Tom Maradrosian. This looks really funny. I saw a Sundance Select interview with the cast, and it got the shaft, and it was in the middle to the end of Sundance, and didn't really get any word of mouth. But I know a couple of people that did say it was interesting and fun. So hopefully it'll come out and find a distributor soon.
And last on our narrative list was a pick from both of us, The Elephant Queen, which is a co-production between the UK and Kenya. Anthea is a mother who will do everything in her power to protect her herd when they are forced to leave their waterhole and embark on an epic journey across the African savannah in a tale of love, loss, and coming home.
I had a hard time with this. Is this an animated film?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. It wasn't really clear about it in the Sundance releases, and I'm interested in seeing it, but it sounds kooky. When we come back, we'll have some plugs for you, and then the documentary list from Sundance, and all that is coming up
when Subject Cinema returns.
Blockbuster or bomb, it's all good for us. This is Subject Cinema.
eCinemaOne is your choice for great info and commentary about the world of film and entertainment. Daily trailer postings, the latest news and film reviews, commentary about the state of the industry, the weekly Subject Cinema and 3-Minute Weekend podcast, and so much more you won't believe it. New material is being posted daily, so join us each day and see what you're missing out on. Once you visit, you will always be back for more. eCinemaOne from PNRNetworks, eCinemaOne.com.
Subject Cinema.
Welcome back to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
We are looking at Sundance this week on our first of our two parts of our 14th annual Festival of Film Festivals. We'll be back to that in just a minute. I've spent the last couple. We've had some problems. A lot of our problems with getting the show done has been twofold. One, a lot of problems going on at work, just difficulties going on. And second, I can't seem to shake this illness that I've fallen down with. I've got this horrible cough, and it keeps coming up all the time. And I've been on meds for it for a month. I was almost gone, and I had some ice cream the other night. It came roaring back. I'm like, are you kidding me? So that's why we've been kind of not as regular as we have been over the last few years, and we're going to get that back into shape this week.
Yep.
But I do want to mention that this week we will be premiering a brand new PNRNetworks website. It is PNRNetworks.com. You'll be able to find all of our shows. You'll be able to see about all the stuff we got going on, all from one site. But don't forget all of our individual websites as well. eCinemaOne with all cinema news and such. eCinemaBoston with our Boston-based stuff. And I'm going to start making sure we get a daily or every other day video or something up on Planet BiblioMusica, our show, our site dedicated to nostalgic books and music, and also on the Kirkham Report. I'm going to start putting up a video of the day or something over there, which is my music site. Kim also has a few things she does every week on hers, including Platinum Rose's Garden.
Yep. Platinum Rose's Garden is my supernatural podcast where I take a look at the previous week's episode of Supernatural and talk about it and talk about anything else that happens to be flying into my head at the time. My newest podcast is up where I'm looking at the most recent episode of Supernatural, episode 13 of season 14, the episode Lebanon, which is also the 300th episode of Supernatural, which makes it the longest running science fiction, fantasy, horror television show in American history. Boom.
So it's an American show.
Yeah.
Doctor Who has run longer.
I don't know about longer, but,
Doctor Who's 50-some years old.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, but it is the longest in America.
You also have Ring Around the Rosie?
And I have Ring Around the Rosie, which is my wrestling podcast, and I also have a show on Patreon.
Well, we'll talk about those in a minute. Your wrestling show usually has a lot of coverage of pay-per-views or commentary. This week's will probably be the pay-per-view that's on.
Well, actually, it's going to be, I can probably do it that way, I suppose. But, yeah, it's going to be
the next show.
Yeah, the next show is looking at the most recent pay-per-views or talking about something in wrestling that has interested me or pissed me off. Neither show is safe for work.
Nope.
I would like to bring that up. There is a lot of swearing and occasional other stuff. But they're hopefully both pretty fun, and I hope you'll go give them a listen.
More occasional other stuff is on Platinum Rose's Garden, more than Ring Around the Rosie. My show, Catastrophe Vortex, will be back shortly. I also have 2 mini shows, 3 Minute Weekend and Tuesday Digidex, which we will be, which run down the weekly releases on DVD on Tuesday and theaters on Friday. And we have all kinds of interesting things to share with you on those. We have Front Row 5 and 10 coming back this week, hopefully, which we have been off for 9 months with this. We need to get it back up and running.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll be back this week. Now, we also have 3 brand new shows premiering on Patreon for our Patreon patrons at $5 a month and up. Kaiju Corner, Kim's new show, is in it's going to have its 3rd episode up this week. You don't want to miss this stuff, guys. It's $5 a month. You get all these extra shows. What are you doing this week?
This week I haven't really decided yet, but when I do decide, you'll be the first to know.
We will have also the premiere of Subject Cinema's Micro Focus. It will be back on Patreon. Again, subscribers $5 or more a month are up. We'll premiere the debut episode of the new Micro Focus with the 1974 film Zardoz, starring Sean Connery, and 2018's Mamma Mia, Here I Go Again will be talked about on that. Plus, we also have our Freeze Frame show, Subject Cinema's Freeze Frame, where we talk about the latest news and entertainment, and interesting topics in entertainment. That will also premiere this week. And all 3 of those shows are available exclusively to our Patreon subscribers at $5 a month or above. So please, hey, we want you to enjoy this. We want you to get extras for coming on board Patreon. You get your name on the site anyway, and a lot of other things. So please, become a supporter, become a patron, patreon.com/PNRNetworks. Twitters are always out there.
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at PlatinumRoselle@Twitter.com.
And I am at eCinemaOne and eCinemaBoston.com, and also TKR Online for my music stuff on the Kirkham Report. And Facebook is out there with for Facebook.com/Popcorn and Roses with all of our stuff. And don't forget, we have a couple of other shows that we're not directly involved with, but we also host their shows. Cavebabble with Eric and Valerie Lyon, all the latest movies, road trips, odd things to eat, and more, coming from the Missouri point of view of our wonderful friends out there at Cavebabble.com.
And we also have Aunt B's Nerd Grotto over on YouTube's with our buddy Anthony Lamberti, who does a lot of great stuff talking about figures and comics, comic book movies, and stuff like that.
He's kind of obsessed with Pops.
Well, Pops are easy to get obsessed with. You buy one or two and you think, oh, that's all I'm going to buy. Then you, 6 months later, your whole wall is completely, you've wallpapered in Pops, and he's a great guy.
Yeah, one of these days the market will fall out just like it did with Beanie Babies.
I don't know if it will or not, because people aren't collecting Pops to sell them later on. They're collecting Pops because they like them. At least everybody I know of is.
They're limited editions, so people collect them as soon as they can get them. And then they turn them around for a huge profit if they buy more than one.
I guess.
So that's how it works. But Anthony's at comicgrotto.com. When we come back, we will have the last part of our Sundance special on this 14th Festival of Film Festivals as we talk about the documentaries this year.
When Subject Cinema returns.
There's a lot of movie talk happening here. This is Subject Cinema.
eCinemaBoston is your best choice for all the latest news and info about happenings in the world of film here in the hub of the universe. Local theater listings, ticketing info, reviews of local venues, spotlight on Boston actors, the latest film shoots, and a whole lot more. If you're in the Metro Boston area, you need eCinemaBoston from PNRNetworks. Once you visit, you will always be back for more. eCinemaBoston.com.
The best movies! Subject Cinema!
Welcome back to Subject Cinema, SC19. Subject Cinema number 623. It is February 17th, 2019, and we are in the midst of part one of our two-part Festival of Film Festivals this year about the January film festivals. Coming up next week, we will have coverage of our picks from Palm Springs, Santa Barbara, and Slamdance, as well as a couple other festivals. This week, we are devoting entirely to Sundance because if we didn't, this show would run 4.5 hours.
Yep.
And we kind of want to not do that. We have gotten our narratives out of the way. We've gotten the winners out of the way. Documentaries are next.
Yes.
Go ahead and start.
Oh, great. I get to start.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. The documentaries that we're interested in, although I have to be honest, this one only he is interested in, Mom, in case you're listening, is the documentary Hail Satan. A look at the intersection of religion and activism, tracing the rise of the Satanic Temple. Only 6 years old and already one of the most controversial religious movements in American history. The temple is calling for a satanic revolution to save the nation's soul, but are they for real?
I'm actually surprised you didn't want to see this because it is actually a very comic look at this group.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, and I'm not trying to come off as, a Jesus freak or anything like that. You're not supposed to look at Satan as in a comical way. You're supposed to look at Satan as the enemy of all mankind.
In a comical way. They're looking at this group in a comical way. It's not the same thing.
Who worship Satan, or at least say they do. And
that's not the same thing. Mike Wallace is here. For over half a century, 60 Minutes fearsome newsman Mike Wallace went head-to-head with the world's most influential figures, relying exclusively on archival footage. The film interrogates the interrogator, tracking Mike's storied career and troubled personal life, while unpacking how broadcast journalism evolved to today's precarious Tipping Point. This was picked up by Magnolia. Hits theaters in August.
Yes. So going from a film about Satan to a film about somebody who was comparable to Satan, according to some people, now we get to actually something nice, music. A film that you and I both picked on our documentary list, Moonlight Sonata, Deafness in 3 Movements. A deeply personal portrait of 3 lives and the discoveries that lie beyond loss. A deaf boy growing up, his deaf grandfather growing old, and Beethoven the year he was blindsided by deafness and wrote his iconic sonata.
Which iconic sonata?
Yeah, I know. The Moonlight Sonata, probably. I would think so.
Pahokee is a documentary set in a small agricultural town in the Florida Everglades and explores the hopes and dreams for the future, concentrated on the youth. 4 teens face heartbreak and celebrate in the rituals of an extraordinary senior year. One of my picks.
This was a pick on both of our lists. Tigerland. 50 years ago, a young forest officer in India rallied the world to save tigers from extinction. Today, the creed is carried on in Far East Russia by the guardians of the last Siberian tigers who risk everything to save the species.
I don't know. We're going to be able to get through that one.
Other than the fact that I'm going to come out of it going, I hate people.
Where's my Roy Cohen? Roy Cohen. I can't say his name. I always have had trouble with it. Roy Cohen, or Cohn, I think it is Cohen, personified the dark arts of American politics, turning empty vessels into dangerous demagogues, from Joseph McCarthy to his final project, Donald J. Trump. This thriller-like expose connects the dots, revealing how a deeply troubled master manipulator shaped our current American nightmare. Again, you can tell from the description exactly what way this film skews. I happen to know a lot of people out there on the conservative side that don't think Roy Cohen is a villain at all. He's a very subjective villain depending on what side you're on. Should be interesting.
I was about to say something, but I decided, no, I'm going to say that off the air, so I'll just wait.
Okay.
The Disappearance of My Mother is another film that you picked, and that is about an aging fashion model who strives to escape the world of images and disappears for good, but her son's determination to make a final film about her sparks an unexpected collaboration and confrontation with the camera's gaze.
I think it sounds interesting. Gaza, from directors Jerry Keane and Andrew McConnell, Gaza brings us into a unique place beyond the reach of television news reports to reveal a world rich with eloquent and resilient characters, offering us a cinematic and enriching portrait of a people attempting to lead meaningful lives against the rubble of perennial conflict.
Yep, that's
that
one of
one's
mine.
From yours. Yep.
Yeah. Also, one of mine is The Magic Life of V, even though I know that I'm going to sit and sob through this entire movie. Haunted by childhood traumas, Vera is trying to become more independent through live role-playing. As she guides herself and her mentally challenged brother through worlds of multiple roles and identities, witches and wizards, she finds the courage to face the demons of her own past and her abusive father's legacy.
I don't know if you're going to be able to get through that one or not.
I'm going to do my damnedest.
Stieg Larsson, The Man Who Played with Fire, a documentary about the Millennium Trilogy author Stieg Larsson and his pioneering work of fighting right-wing extremists and neo-Nazis, an obsession with fatal consequences. That is one of your picks.
One of yours, which doesn't surprise me at all, is Ask Dr. Ruth, a documentary portrait of chronicling the incredible life of Dr. Ruth Westheimer, a Holocaust survivor who became America's most famous sex therapist. As her 90th birthday approaches, Dr. Ruth reveals her painful past and her career at the forefront of the sexual revolution. Now, I say that about why I'm not surprised he picked this, because he does a mean Dr. Ruth impression.
He used to.
He had it on his answering machine. It was really funny.
Halston, from director Frederick Chang, from Iowa to Studio 54, this investigation into the rags to riches story of America's first superstar designer uncovers the cautionary tale of an artist who sold his name to Wall Street. This got some good word of mouth from people there, as did the next one. This next one is something we didn't know about, and it's this is not going to be an easy one for us, and yet we'll be there on opening night when it comes.
We definitely will. Love and Tosha was picked by both TC and myself. And a portrait of the extraordinary life and career of actor Anton Yelchin.
This film was put together by his parents, and in it it is revealed to the world that something that the world didn't know about him, even his co-stars didn't know about it. He was fighting cystic fibrosis from the time he was 8 years old. Mm-hmm. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute.
No, I know.
Are you serious? And he was about ready to make it public when he was killed in the summer of 2016 at the young age of 27.
Yeah.
Just
Anton
such a loss.
Was and is one of our favorite actors. He's absolutely, his work will never diminish, and neither will his star, and it shouldn't.
No.
And a film like this will keep it alive.
I don't think we've ever felt the kind of loss that we felt for many actors over the years, the way we felt when we suddenly had Anton taken from us because we were such huge fans. This film is going to kill us, and I'm just going to be honest. No buyer yet, but it was pretty much between Netflix and Hulu, so we'll see.
I'm sorry, there's a few more on here. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You have the next one.
The Great Hack. Not surprised you weren't interested in this.
No.
It's a computer movie.
Nope.
Data, arguably the world's most valuable asset, is being weaponized to wage cultural and political wars. The dark world of data exploitation is uncovered through the unpredictable personal journeys of players on different sides of the explosive Cambridge Analytica Facebook data story.
Mm-hmm. Another pick of yours, the inventor out for blood in Silicon Valley. With a magical new invention that promised to revolutionize blood testing, Elizabeth Holmes became the world's youngest self-made billionaire, heralded as the next Steve Jobs. Then, overnight, her $10 billion company dissolved. The rise and fall of Theranos is a window into the psychology of fraud.
I'm drawn to this simply by Alec Gibney's presence as the director. He has done some amazing work over the last few years, and all of it engrossing. Untouchable, from director Ursula Macfarlane, the rise and fall, inside story of the rise and fall of Harvey Weinstein, revealing how over decades he acquired and protected his power, even as scandal threatened to engulf him. With former colleagues and accusers detail the method and consequences of his alleged abuse, hoping for justice and to inspire change.
Mm-hmm. The next film is a documentary that I picked, Memory, The Origins of Alien. The untold origin story behind Ridley Scott's Alien, rooted in Greek and Egyptian mythologies, underground comics, the art of Francis Bacon, and the dark visions of Dan O'Bannon and H.R. Geiger. A contemplation on the symbiotic collaborative process of movie making, the power of myth, and our collective unconscious.
So what drew you to this? The artwork?
The artwork, really. The Alien films are an acquired taste. I never really acquired it. But the artwork is completely stunning and mesmerizing, and I'm looking forward to that one.
And our final film is actually a film that premiered at Telluride last year. The Biggest Little Farm. Two dreamers and a dog embark on an odyssey to bring harmony to their lives and the land as their plan to create perfect harmony takes a series of wild turns. They have to reach a far greater understanding of the intricacies and wisdom of nature and life itself. Basically what this couple did, they were a power couple in Los Angeles. They gave up that life to open their own farm in the middle of suburban Los Angeles. It's somewhere in one of the suburbs. It's out in the wilderness, but it's surrounded by Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. I saw a trailer for it. It was utterly charming, and I can't wait to take a look at it. I think it's going to be amazing. This is not even scratching the surface of everything that was at Sundance.
These are the films that interested us.
These are the ones that jumped out at us as big.
You should definitely go check out Sundance's stuff and see what interests you.
We'll have a link to the Sundance stuff in the show notes this week or next week, and there should be lots of great films coming out. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see a lot of these smaller films are going to end up going to television. Netflix, a favorite. Hulu, a favorite. Last year's winning it didn't win documentary, but it won a documentary prize. The Underseen, Minding the Gap from Bing Liu went straight to Hulu and won. It has been up, getting amazing reviews and views over there. So if you've not seen that, you should check it out.
Yep.
But Hulu is going to be another place for more of these documentaries, especially, and so will Netflix, Amazon Prime, and all of those. Although hopefully some of them will come to theaters, because this last year was the strongest documentary year, I think, in history. We had 5 documentaries earning over $20 million at the box office, which is almost unheard of.
Wow.
Including Won't You Be My Neighbor, RBG, and 3 Identical Strangers. And I mean, it's just changing. The documentary world is attracting people. And normally it would just attract that niche group. Suddenly there's groups of these that are out there a little bit more. I think the Anton film would bring in a lot of people. I hope it makes it to theaters.
I do too.
I have a feeling it's going to be Hulu or Netflix, but hopefully it will make it to theaters and more people will get a chance to see it and show that. Because I still was sitting here reading about this film, reading an interview with his still rightfully grieving parents, where they were talking about his decision to come clean about his cystic fibrosis, and I'm like, how do you live with that for 20 years of an acting career, from the time you're 8 years old, and still, I mean, some of the scenes you wonder how he did, especially the physical stuff like Fierce People, Star Trek, a number of other things that he did a lot of physical work in. I don't know how he managed it.
Absolutely, because cystic fibrosis it's not a disease that's as well known as other diseases like muscular dystrophy or cerebral palsy or things like that. But it can be a devastating disease. I lost 2 people in my family to that. So I know from their struggles that, how difficult it is. And I can't picture being a young actor and dealing with that. And like you said, dealing with the physicality. I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking of like that one scene in Star Trek where he's running to the transporter room, and I'm going, how did he, what?
Yeah. I think it's the most interesting thing. Drake Doremus, who is also the producer on the documentary and was his director on Like Crazy, the Sundance Award-winning film from 2010. It was, as he said, he never suspected it. He just thought Anton had a perennial cold. He was always coughing. But during scenes, it would go away.
Right.
In amazing control. So I can't wait to see this, although I know I'm going to sit there and bawl. And it's just like, it's just going to be an amazing film. And that's my favorite film, I think I want to see more than anything out of the Sundance this year.
Yeah. Next
week we will have Palm Springs, Santa Barbara, and Slamdance. All have some interesting films out there. We'll also get into a few titles from Berlin, Victoria, Big Sky, True False, and South by Southwest, which will actually be the full Festival Central special in March. We'll be doing on South by Southwest. So those will be interesting. We hope you'll continue listening to Subject Cinema, even when we're a little bit late here and there. I'm sorry, I got a cough again. I just can't shake this thing. And we hope, above anything else, that you are telling people about the show and how much you love it and how cool you think we are and how wonderful, funny, and poignant we can be and just how electric we are. You can't miss us. You don't ever want to let us go.
Or you could always say, hey, listen to these freaks.
You always blow the sail.
No, I'm not trying to blow the sail, because we are not like out there trying to push an agenda.
We are the oldest roots podcast about film on the internet.
We're about films being fun.
Please come help us out.
Yeah.
Join our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/PNRNetworks. If you, at any level you are, you will be acknowledged on the site as a Patreon patron. At $5 and up, you will get our 3 Patreon-only podcasts, and continuing up, a lot more coming from those. And we hope you'll be there.
Yep.
Before I end up hacking up a lung, let's get out of here, okay? For Subject Cinema, I'm TC Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be buttered.
And may your roses always be in bloom.
We'll see you with part 2 next week.
Bye-bye.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNRNetworks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema theme performed by Eric Lyon. Subject Cinema is recorded and produced using Sony Vegas products. Subject Cinema is copyright 2018 by PNRNetworks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, this is Bob Taylor for Subject Cinema, and we'll see you at the movies.
That's all.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR